The name Jehovah, the Masoretes changed it and added vowels to the name YHWH. The vowels they used were those from Elohim and Adonai, so that when YHWH Elohim appeared in the text, they would say Adonai Elohim. And so that when YHWH Adonai appeared, they would say Elohim Adonai. So they would always remove YHWH and replace it with Adonai or Elohim, depending on the instance, depending on the verse in which it appeared. This led to a situation where, when translators arrived and saw the letters of YHWH, which are usually consonants, I repeat, YHWH, and they saw the vowels, which were those of Adonai, that is O and A. And then, in other cases, the vowels from Elohim, which are E, O, and I. So, in Adonai, it's A, O, and A. In Elohim, it's E, O, and I. Therefore, there were two versions of the name of the Almighty. One was Yehovah and the other was Jehovah. They refused to allow the name Yah to be spoken because it's the closest to YHWH. It's the first part of the name. So they left it with the E from Elohim, Yehovah, and the A from Adonai. That's how the name Jehovah ended up in all the scriptures or Bibles, like the Reina Valera and others. As I mentioned, before it used to be with a Y, Jehovah. Later, in the 16th century, the I's that were at the beginning of names were changed to a J, and in the 17th century they started to have a different sound, which is like the J we use today. And that's why the name Jehovah came to exist, and that's why the name Jesus came to exist. Those two pronunciations, those two names, only came into existence in the 17th century. They didn't exist when the Messiah was on earth. So, if they only came into existence in the 17th century, it's also clear that this is not the true name of the Almighty, because YHWH gave us that name, his name, to Moses in Exodus and said it would be for all generations. On the other hand, with the name of the Messiah, it was something similar. When he died, rose again, and left, we see in the book of Acts that the disciples were accused of preaching the name of the Messiah. Not just preaching about him, but preaching the name. And the Pharisees would throw them out and forbid them from speaking the name of the Messiah. They forbade them from speaking the name. Yahushua also tells us in scripture that because of his name, we will be hated by everyone. So it doesn't say because of his name we will be hated by Muslims, or that because of his name we will be hated by Jews, but rather that we will be hated by everyone. And among those, unfortunately, it includes Christians who commonly, right? Many were called brothers. But when someone comes with the truth of the scripture, and among those truths, the truth about the name, which is the first one needed to uncover a whole bunch of other truths, most people reject it for many illogical reasons, many reasons. Basically, they want to keep being part of the crowd. They're afraid of being seen as strange, of people saying things to them. They get called crazy for using a different name, and so on. That's why Yahushua tells us that whoever is ashamed of him, Yahushua will be ashamed of that person before the Father and his angels. But whoever proclaims the name of Yahushua before men, Yahushua will acknowledge before his Father and the angels. So the name is of utmost importance. I repeat, that's why we will be hated by everyone for his name, not just by some people, but by everyone. That's also why Yahushua said, I come in my Father's name. Because in the name Yahushua, the first part, the first half is Yahu, which is the first three letters of the name YHWH. Yahushua is the past tense of YHWH, together with one of the conjugations of the word that means salvation, freedom, abundance, wealth. So, Yahushua means YHWH enriches, YHWH frees, YHWH saves. Yahushua, I repeat, means YHWH saves.